Over the years, there have been some truly incredible performances in the horror genre that were so convincing, you'd swear the cast weren't even acting. And sometimes, well, that is exactly what's happening. Though the actors on this list have very much been commended for their performances, no acting was actually required while shooting these specific sequences for a number of interesting reasons. So let's get into it. I'm Gareth, this is What Culture Horror, and here are 10 moments in horror where actors weren't acting. Number 10, Ashley Bank, The Monster Squad. In Fred Decker's cult classic, a bunch of kids discover their hometown has been invaded by Dracula, Frankenstein's creature, the Wolfman, the Mummy, and Gilman. Now what you want? Due to the tongue-in-cheek humor and light-hearted tone, it's obvious the Monster Squad leans more into the comedy than the horror. With that said, one of the actresses, 5-year-old Ashley Bank, was scared out of her mind of the actor portraying Dracula, Duncan Regeer. Regeer remained in character at all times while in the presence of the child actors, so they were constantly unnerved by the bloke. Banks' fear of Regeer was so potent, the filmmakers took special measures while shooting the scene where the Transylvanian vampire lifts her into the air by the chin. Though Regeer wore red contact lenses and fangs as the blood-sucking count, he removed them for this shot to avoid traumatizing the little girl for life. Even without his full makeup, Bank found Regeer's performance outright chilling, which is why her scream in this sequence is 100% real. In fact, the delivery was so perfect, it didn't need a second take. You can't be putting someone through all that twice. Number 9, Lily Taylor, The Conjuring. The Conjuring has plenty of haunting moments, including the prologue, the dancing ghost child, and the reveal of the demon, which is sure to give any first-time viewer the fright of their life. But another moment that deserves to be singled out is when Carolyn is playing hide and clap with her children. As she follows the sound of the clapping throughout her darkened house, she's ultimately led to a wardrobe, where she expects to find her daughter. But when she opens it, Carolyn finds the wardrobe to be empty. While Carolyn tries to process what's happening, a pair of clapping hands appear behind her, causing her to let out a blood-curdling shriek. I would probably do that and more if the same thing happened to me. The minimalism approach works in the scene's favor, creating a gripping atmosphere without relying on conventional scare tactics, like gore or demonic imagery. But another reason why the sequence is so damn tense is Taylor's convincing performance, or lack thereof. Lily Taylor is totally believable here, since she didn't have a clue when the claps were gonna happen, or from where. Keeping Taylor in the dark about this detail helped her invoke a natural response during filming, which added a dollop of unease and apprehension to this scene. Not the kind of dollop I go for typically, but it worked here. The child actors, It. The projector scene in 2017's It is one of the most memorable moments in this Stephen King adaptation, which is saying a lot since the film has about 20 spine-tingling sequences. In the scene in question, the Losers Club are in a garage, piecing together clues about Pennywise. The kids use a slide projector to look at maps and family photos, hoping to learn more about the extra-dimensional being. But suddenly the projector begins flipping through images on its own, even after the children try to stop it. The slides zoom in on a photo of a woman, whose face slowly morphs into the child-eating clown. Nope, not good, I bloody hate clowns. Though Pennywise has appeared multiple times at this point, this sequence leaves an impact since many of the Losers Club members hadn't seen the malevolent jester until this point. More importantly, the actors portraying the Losers Club never met Bill Skarsgård before, so this was really the first time they had seen Pennywise. Producer Barbara Muschietti explained that keeping Pennywise's design under wraps was pivotal to ensure that the children reacted authentically when they saw him for the first time. Though Pennywise definitely looks creepy as hell here, it's the natural reaction from the kids that really sells this sequence. Again, I understand where they were coming from. Number 6, Jodie Foster, The Silence of the Lambs. Jodie Foster is a 2-time Academy Award winner who picked up her first Oscar nomination when she was only 13 years old. As such, it goes without saying that the Taxi Driver star is a natural talent. She's good at this stuff. But while shooting The Silence of the Lambs, she didn't always have to rely on her acting ability while playing Agent Clarice Starling. Though the performances in this Thomas Harris adaptation are top tier, Foster didn't have to really act freaked out while working with Anthony Hopkins, who portrayed Hannibal Lecter, of course. According to Foster, she never actually spoke to Hopkins during production, since he stayed in character at all times. Yep, so that'd be freaky. Furthermore, the Welsh actor actually really hurt Foster's feelings at one point as well, the meanie. So during their first confrontation, Hannibal puts on a southern drawl to belittle Starling's upbringing. You remember? Well, according to Foster, this moment ticked her off, since, in her words, "I was an actress learning how to speak in a West Virginia accent, and when I heard him make fun of my accent, it really made me mad." Fortunately, going off script worked here, since Foster's reaction was caught on tape, accentuating her already terrific performance. Now, if you are having a good time looking at these moments in horror movies when actors weren't actually doing that acting stuff, then hit that subscribe button down below and you'll get even more What Culture horror videos in your life. Number 5, nearly everybody, Wreck. Although found footage horror has been popular since the Blair Witch Project, it's hard to think of any film in the genre that pulled it off better than Wreck. The Spanish zombie chiller follows a television reporter called Angela, who documents a firefighting team while they rescue an apartment resident. After they arrive, the building is sealed by the government to stop the spread of a dangerous infection. To Angela's horror, the infection turns the residents into mindless creatures, compelling them to attack and bite anyone they see. Now, even though filmmakers always tend to pine for realism, that goes double for found footage, especially since Wreck is depicted as a legitimate news story that's unfolding before our eyes. So palpable performances are not just important, but necessary to ensure that the film remains immersive. With this in mind, few of the actors were actually told about the firefighter plummeting to his death from the staircase, which occurs in the first 20 minutes or so. Although this jump scare is effective in its own right, it's even more impressive when you learn that the actors did not know what was going to happen, and yet still managed to stay in character. I would have lost my S-word. Number 4, Ellen Burstyn and Jason Miller, The Exorcist. With The Exorcist regularly touted as the scariest film ever made, it's no surprise it rattled the cast emotionally and physically. However, certain actors definitely suffered more than others. About an hour in, Chris McNeil bursts into the bedroom of her possessed daughter Reagan to find her stabbing herself with a crucifix. When Chris tries to stop her, Reagan throws her mother into the wall. To capture this shot, Ellen Burstyn was wearing a harness that was yanked by the film crew to give the impression her character was being hurled across the room. Unfortunately, the crew pulled the harness too hard during shooting, causing Burstyn to fracture her coccyx. And not only was the poor actress left with a permanent spine injury, the intense pain has become a part of cinematic history since this footage actually made it into the finished product. Interestingly, another non-acting moment occurs less than 10 minutes later. When Father Karras confronts Reagan, she defiantly vomits across his face. Jason Miller, who played Karras, was under the belief that the pea soup puke was going to hit his chest. So his look of repulsion here is the real deal, folks. Number 3, Matthew Lillard, Scream. Even though Wes Craven's innovative slasher was released nearly 30 years ago, we'll still offer a spoiler warning here, since this entry does involve the identities of the killers. You've been warned, but seriously, how have you not seen this movie yet? During the climax, Sydney discovers the Ghostface murders were carried out by her boyfriend, Billy Loomis, and his friend Stu Macker. After Billy and Stu get momentarily distracted, Sydney runs away and calls the cops. She then phones Billy and begins to chastise him. At this moment, Skeet Ulrich was meant to hurl the phone out of frustration. However, he accidentally threw the phone at Matthew Lillard, clonking him on the head, causing him to let out a pathetic whimper. Instead of stopping the take, Lillard just rolled with the punch and improvised the hilarious line, "Ah, way to hit me with the phone, D-word." He didn't say D-word, he said another word, but watch the movie. Number 2, Almost Everybody, The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Occasionally, filmmakers refuse to divulge how a particular moment is set up to ensure that the actors behave more naturally. Such was the case with The Rocky Horror Picture Show. In one scene, Brad and Janet are dining with Dr. Frankenfurter. Although the encounter is extremely uncomfortable, it becomes absolutely nightmarish when the couple realize the meat they're eating belongs to a motorcyclist called Eddie. Lovely. And just when things looked like they couldn't get any worse, Frankenfurter whips the tablecloth off, revealing Eddie's corpse underneath. The actor's gasps, disgusted expressions, and shocked reactions are authentic here, since they had no idea this was going to happen. Some sources claim Tim Curry was the only actor who knew how this sequence was going to play out, since he was the one who unveils the mutilated corpse. However, it's also said that his co-star Richard O'Brien was in on it, as was the bloke who played Eddie, Meatloaf, since he had to model for the prop. Though the reveal was shocking in itself, the way it elicited a real reaction from the rest of the ensemble was definitely the cherry on top. And number 1, Bill Paxton, Aliens. Now, anyone expecting the original Alien to nab the top spot here were, well, half right. Yes, horror enthusiasts should know by now that the actors in Alien weren't really sure what to expect while shooting the iconic chestburster sequence. And if you didn't know that, like, where have you been? But some sci-fi veterans might not know the circumstances behind Alien's knife sequence. In one of the earliest scenes, a Marine called Hudson, played by the great Bill Paxton, asked the android Bishop to do the thing with the knife. In the original script, Bishop plays five-finger fillet, or fillet, whatever the hell it is, with his own hand, where he jabs between his fingers without cutting himself. However, Lance Henriksen asked the director, James Cameron, if the scene would work better if Bishop placed his hand on top of Hudson's. Cameron agreed and discussed this change with everyone involved, except Paxton. Though taking part would be frightening for anyone, it was extra terrifying for Paxton since he had no clue that his fingers were on the chopping block until he was shooting. Also, Paxton's fear was justified since Henriksen nicked the Twister actor's pinky for real during filming. It's a shame that Paxton had to suffer for his art here, but it was worth it, since it's arguably the tensest moment in the movie that doesn't involve, you know, the titular aliens bleeding acid and just killing everyone. Right, now continue your YouTube journey with What Culture Horror by tapping on another video right here. Have a good time, see you soon.